Doing fantasy football as we speak. And good, I got running backs. Okay. All right. It's Mr. Beat here, and I'm in my new studio. There's a bit of an echo, and you see the shadow of my wife, Mrs. Beat, because we're still working out the lighting in here. But yeah, I am here and got some updates for you. I had a good summer. Let me make sure this shows up. I'm not sure this is showing up with my channel. Forgive me here. I'm just working through some kinks. I'm going to have to get a producer because I don't have time to learn this. Oh, okay. Yeah, now, yeah, it looks like it's working. And ooh, that thumbnail is wretched. I was just like, they said, smile. And okay. So I'll try to check the chat here. It looks like I can see this is all new, the new streaming, because they got rid of Google Hangouts. So I'll do some Q&A at the end here. But yeah, I wanted to show you my new studio. This is it. This is going to be my new backdrop. I have carefully put it together. All kinds of great stuff on here. Some new little thingamabobs, and my guitar, Beavis and Butthead, President's Tin, my new Harry Truman bobblehead. Let's see, my Northern Exposure mug. That's a great show. You should check out Northern Exposure. And yeah, we moved. So it was unexpected, but we moved a couple weeks ago, and here I am in a new basement. So wanted to tell you some updates about the channel. First of all, last time you saw me in a live stream was June. I did the reveal of my DNA results on Ancestry.com. So since then, I've been to EdjiCon. YouTube put a conference on called EdjiCon, and it was pretty awesome. It was amazing. YouTube treated us like rock stars. So if you don't know what EdjiCon is, it's basically a conference for educational YouTubers. And I felt like it was a pilgrimage. It was a place where I could go to actually hang out with people that do the same thing as me. Because I often say this, I think I might be the only educational YouTuber in the entire state of Kansas. And so, you know, seeing my friends and colleagues from all over the country and even outside the United States, it's a very fulfilling experience. And so a lot of it's just hanging out in social time, but we learn a lot from each other as well. A little bit of networking going on, meeting new people, but a lot of old faces. And I collaborate a lot on this channel, in case you hadn't noticed. The latest was the video on Friday. I collaborated with Dave from City Beautiful. But a big reason why I do so many collaborations is because of events like those, YouTube's EdjiCon. So it was over a couple days. It was right before VidCon, and it was at the YouTube space in LA. So I've been to LA the last 3 summers now, and because they had EdjiCon last year as well, and so I went to that, but it was a lot bigger this year. You had some big names there, you know, like Veritasium, you know, and of course the Green Brothers and the Crash Course folks, and you had Vsauce Michael here, and then you had me and smaller educational YouTubers, and we all just kind of, you know, I went right up again to CGP Grey and talked to him, and I asked him if he's seen my Electoral College video, and he said, "Oh no, sorry, I haven't." And then, but yeah, we had a nice conversation. You know, there's some of the educational YouTubers and I get along better than others. Like obviously the social sciences / humanities folks tend to gravitate towards each other just inevitably. I did go out of my way and try to meet people that I thought I would have a lot in common with, even if we didn't have channels that were necessarily similar. So, but yeah, I was one of the few actual teachers that taught in a school setting that was there, and that was very, just like I said earlier, very fulfilling. And then I went to VidCon after that. We went to VidCon, and it was just kind of underwhelming. I mean, it was cool to still see a bunch of people, and VidCon is where I got to meet JJ McCullough. Is that how you pronounce his name? McCullough? I don't know. I never said it out loud until just now. But JJ and I hung out a bit. I introduced him to the circles of the educational YouTubers, and we're going to collaborate here in a couple months. I've got a lot of great big collaborations coming up, including with Alternate History Hub. I gotta meet Cody. He's sometimes hard to get a hold of, but yeah, we hung out and a little bit, and we have a big video collaboration planned. I'm excited. Other collaborations, I have another one with Cynical Historian, but that won't be probably until December. As far as other upcoming videos, I have my next compared video will be the New Mexico and Arizona compared video. That's coming not this week, but the week after. And this next week, I have another parody song. I haven't released a parody song in a long time, but it will be here. And I only do those like once a year at this point. Not a lot of my subscribers actually like them, but I think they're fun. And the reason why I'm still doing those, in addition to it being fun, is this one I got help from two of my students in APUSH, AP US History. They made the lyrics for the song. So it's about the Korean War, a war that my grandpa fought in. And I'll just give it away. It's to Red Hot Chili. That was a bad joke. It's to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, their song "Give It Away." So that's the parody song about the Korean War. That's coming on Friday. Let's see what else. This summer, I reached 100,000 subscribers. As you saw, I made a big video about that. I have yet to receive my silver play button, but I heard it can take a few months. And I'm supposed to tell you that you're supposed to follow me on Twitter and check out my Instagram and Facebook. I know most of you aren't even on Facebook. That's, Oh yeah, Mr. Betts is in the chat. He says a Mr. Beat parody song. It's about time. Mr. Betts, of course, many of you know, is the legendary king of the historical parody songs, and he has recently pivoted away from that. He's been making more explainer type videos and animated history videos, and they're awesome. They're amazing. I'm hoping they catch on because dang, these are way better than, no offense, but they're way better than his parody songs. Even he's taken it to the next level. They're way better than my videos. So I think eventually they will kick on. The algorithm will give him some love. But he hasn't even went back to school yet. I went back to school. We've been back in school a week and a half, my students in real life. So it's back to no sleep time. So over the summer, though, it did feel like I was working full time, mostly due to YouTube. And that's fine. I love it. This is what I want to be doing as much as possible because it's my #1 passion, because I get to teach as many people as possible. So it's great. So yeah, I'm going to do Q&A the rest of the time here. I think that's all the announcements I had. My manager, Mrs. Beat, she had a list for me. She makes lists for me all the time. But anyway, let's check out the chat, shall we? If you've been commenting before, I didn't see you, and I'm sorry that the other link was a bust, because that was supposed to be the stream, but because I don't have encoding software yet, I did have OBS, but I wasn't comfortable with it. We have to just do this basic like webcam format, and I won't be on too long, probably like another 30 minutes. But I do want to, look at your questions and see if you guys have stuff you want to talk about. So, all right, I'm gonna scroll up just a little bit, not too far. I see a name that I recognize, Virginia and Maryland, 3 exclamation points. So, hello, Virginia and Maryland, welcome. Virginia and Maryland. Are those two states that I should compare, perhaps? All right, so this person says, are you educational or comedy? It's weird that you would think I'm comedy. I'm not very funny in most people's opinions, but yeah. Tanner Wilson says, you need to get to the main VidCon event in Anaheim in the near future. Well, that would be fun. I think that's the only way I would ever go back to VidCon is if they invited me to like join a panel or something. Actually, the reason why I went this past year is because they gave me free tickets because I won that VidCon grant. So that was very nice. Thank you again, VidCon. All right. Darth Cookie, yes. Hey, one day I will start an educational channel and become the second Kansan YT educator. Yeah, from Kansas as well. Let's see if you have any questions. I'm going to scroll down a bit here. Okay, so Christian Veliquez asks, when will the next Supreme Court briefs be? All right, so it will be in about 3 weeks. And I think 3 weeks. I'm not going to give away the case yet, though, because I want to keep you hanging a little bit. All right. Do you like Kansas? It's all right. I mean, I like the city where I live. I like it. Most of it's fairly tolerable. All right. Is Emperor Tiger Star here? I haven't seen him. All right. They're just asking. Oh, JJ made it. Hey, what's up, JJ? If you're still watching, yeah. All right. Looks like people have been censored already. Ooh, keep it clean. All right. All right. I don't see any. There's just a lot of people going back and forth. So if you got questions, hit me up now with them. Another question about Supreme Court briefs from Chris. Yeah, about 3 weeks. Norway versus Sweden. That would be a fun one. Indonesia and Malaysia. That would be a long one. All right. See a lot of suggestions here. USA versus Canada. Oh yeah, there's a suggestion for the 1904 St. Louis Olympics. You're not the first person to suggest that, Tanner. Favorite Republican 1970 to the present, and favorite Democrat 1970 to the present. So does this mean president or just any politician? Because that's a big question. Woo. Favorite Republican? I'm assuming this has been I'm assuming at the federal level, so you might want to clarify on that. But as far as Republican presidents, the best Republican president since 1970, it might be Gerald Ford. I mean, yeah, Gerald Ford probably. As far as politician, period, Republican Party, there's a few good ones. I really liked Ron Paul, when he was in Congress, Dr. No. He's the first one that pops in my head. Democrat, let's see, president, the best Democrat president. Oh, between 1970 and now, there's not many, right? There's 3. There are 3. We've been very conservative for a long time, this country, the United States. So that leaves Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, or Barack Obama. I guess of those 3, I'd have to pick Jimmy Carter, although mostly because of what he did after he was president, not when he was in office. As far as in Congress, I really liked Dennis Kucinich a lot when he was in office. Senators, most senators, I'm not really big on just like being a fan of individual people. I used to when I was younger. Kind of grew out of that. So, but all right, back to the questions. Uh-oh. Let me scroll up here. Oh, that's my cat. Hey, Ellie. Yeah, you want to say hi to everybody? She's very vocal. She's getting up there. All right. So, can you say hi? My name is No, I'm not going to say that, Nicholas. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go to bed. Go to bed. More suggestions here. Any thoughts, Mr. Beat? This is Alexei. Any thoughts, Mr. Beat, on classical Russian literature or Russian culture / history in general? I don't know a lot about Russian history. I used to teach world history, and we would you know, of course, hit a little bit in there. The Russian Revolution is fascinating. I would love to make a video about that just to give me an excuse to research it more. Let's see here. Going down. Who do you like for 2020? I always get that question so fast asked at this time. I think last time I mentioned I liked Andrew Yang, and so that got people riled up in the comment section. Where did you get your Harry S. Truman bobblehead? Why I got it from the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library, of course. All right. Is gold money? Yeah, it can be, certainly. More suggestions. I do like Guam versus Puerto Rico. That's a fun one. Alexi also asks, Mr. Beat, any thoughts on? Oh, that's the same one. She just worded it differently, or he just worded it differently. Are you going to do a video on the Democratic primaries? Probably not. Speak carefully before you split your fan base. Yeah. No, I think. I mean, the thing is, I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a registered Republican. I'm not really a fan of either political party. Generally speaking, my views are all over the place. So I think that helps me not get into one camp or another. And I like the fact that my viewers are all over the place too. That's good. I look like a young Barry Goldwater is what I'm assuming that's the Goldwater they're referring to. Truman Library just closed for an update, but the Eisenhower Library just closed too. Yeah, the Eisenhower Library, they are now opened. They remodeled and are now opened. I know this because I went there the week before they reopened. I timed it wrong. E pluribus unum says I'm a wig. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for the compliment about the Rio versus Sao Paulo video. I appreciate that. I do want to make more videos about South America. Definitely. That's just the beginning, I hope. Will I cover the 2020 election when it's over? Elephants Doing Crack says. Great username, by the way. Of course I will. I'll wait probably a few months, though, but I will do that. What's your favorite national park? Legitimate Waffle asks. Well, my favorite national park is probably Denali in Alaska. All right. Comparison video of my old studio versus new studio. Like things like weather, humidity, pollution. There's definitely more humidity in the old studio. It's drier, and it helps that we have a sump pump. Yeah, sump pumps are nice. Is Texas a state or not? It is currently. It used to be a republic. It used to be a sovereign country. Ulysses Grant wants me to vote for him in 2020. All right. Could you do more video suggestions here? I'll skip those. What's the best place in the world you visited personally? This is from Blue Link 121. The best place I've ever visited was British Columbia in Canada. I love that place. The most beautiful place on earth. I drove up and down that place because my brother and I drove up to Alaska, and this was 9 years ago. And on the way back down, we saw a lot of British Columbia, so it's just amazing. Stefan Molyneux is in the chat. Is that really you, Stefan Molyneux, suggesting all those videos? All right, your take on the G7 summit? It's good anytime world leaders meet up. That's my opinion on that. What's my favorite state? Well, my favorite state to visit is Colorado because it's cheaper, but I think Alaska overall. Yeah, Alaska. I've only been there once, though. Only once. Advice for Dude says, advice for someone who really isn't into politics but wants to be, mostly because of a moral obligation. I think you just got to make it relative to your life. I think what got me into politics originally was when I started paying taxes and I saw where the tax dollars went to. I mean, I know that sounds selfish, but that's how inherently, I think every human being is selfish in that way. We're looking. It's not like we're going around constantly thinking about how we're going to help other people. No, you're constantly walking around thinking about how am I going to help myself or maybe my family. So like, yeah, connect it to your own life. It's easy to do. It's really easy to do. Politics is power, and every day it's a struggle for power in all of our lives, whether we think we're involved or not. You are involved. If you interact with other human beings, that's politics. More suggestions. I appreciate the suggestions. I wish I had more time, maybe a team to help me out. Somebody asked me what I think about Alf Landon. Alf Landon, the former governor of Kansas, ran for president in 1936. He never really seemed like he wanted to win, and his platform wasn't that much different from FDR. So, that was, I think, his biggest issue. Do I think Hawaii should be an independent country? Only if they want to be. I don't think they've been polled on it recently, but I doubt they would go for that. Should Theodore Roosevelt joined us? Thanks for joining us, Theodore. Should the American people be allowed to rule or control themselves? I mean, that's such a broad question. I think in many ways we do control a lot of our own destinies already. Yeah, that's just too big, Theodore. I think overall you got to find a balance. You need there is a social contract. You have government. That I think almost all of us agree that there needs to be some kind of government there. So where that line is a constant thing we need to be thinking about, discussing about. What are your thoughts? K Mill says, "What are your thoughts on the USA trying to buy Greenland?" Well, they're trying to buy Greenland. I don't think they really are. I think it's just something that the president said. But I think, Harry Truman tried to buy Greenland in the 40s, I think. So it's not like it's that radical. I joked around on Twitter that Denmark should consider buying the United States. I thought that was kind of funny. All right, let's see here. Would I rather go to Delaware or Rhode Island? I haven't been to either state yet. I think I'd rather go to probably Rhode Island first. I'm sorry, Delaware. Rhode Island just seems like it has a little bit more history there that I'd be into. All right. Samuel Powell says, Mr. B, do you agree with the abolition of zoning? I think zoning is overrated. I think that we tend to assume that humans are incompetent, which I understand why, but I think there's some cities that have very lax zoning laws, like Houston. And so you do get interesting, like the classic example is like, a strip club next to a school. I mean, that's not going to be very good, but I don't think you have to have zoning laws for that to happen where people wouldn't do that, Let's see here. Well, I already answered the candidate I'd vote for in 2016. Which candidate did I vote for in 2016? I think I've said this elsewhere. I'll just tell you, I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, and I also didn't vote for Donald Trump. So yeah. But I live in a red state, so it doesn't really matter like so much that it wasn't close. It was pretty. I think President Trump won in Kansas in 2016, like it was like 65% or maybe even 70% of the vote. Kind of crazy. All right, let's see here. Oh, who's my favorite Supreme Court justice and favorite Supreme Court case? I think I got asked this before, but yes, my favorite Supreme Court justice. Me and Emperor Tiger Star were talking about this one time, and we were talking about Berger and how he's underrated. Burger's underrated. I mean, I liked. Oh, geez. The problem is all of them have at least one case where they just completely messed up. I mean, it's but as far as cases, I think one of the cases that always immediately comes to mind that I really enjoy, you know, talking about with people is Texas v. Johnson. I mean, I think the flag burning thing it's just a fascinating thing to me. Anything to do with the American flag actually lately has been like the Barnett case is also pretty fascinating. Like saying that, do you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance? That's stuff like that. All right. Let's see here. What is it like teaching history? Well, it's different every year. It's people assume that, oh, I'm just teaching the same thing, but I actually break out different lessons all the time because I do get bored with my old lessons. I'm trying to always mix it up, and then the fact that what's happening in the current times that we live in is changing our interpretation of what happened in the past, and so we're constantly like revisiting the same history. And I think it's not the same thing every year. That's one of the greatest misconceptions about teaching history. All right. What do I think about Brexit? I think I'm generally a fan of free trade. And so Brexit seems to be misguided. I don't know enough about it, though. I'm not a British citizen. So I know a lot of it is, it's easy for me to say, oh, Brexit is a bad idea when I'm way over here in the United States. So that's one of those things where I think it's you probably should get your opinion from somebody who's British, who's more intertwined in the events with that surrounding that. All right, let's see here. Tanner says thoughts on the rumor that the Cherokee Nation sending a delegate to Congress. Should more Native tribes do them to help improve representation of Indian tribes in Congress? I did not know about that, so that sounds intriguing. First thought is, heck yeah. I mean, you think about it though. We have the territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, Samoa. They send people. They don't get a vote in Congress, and so I think if you're going to do this, the thing is also, how many nations are there? Native American nations are there? There are hundreds at the very least, if not more. So that could and that could end up being a pretty big deal and a slippery slope too, because there are some tribes that only have maybe 20 recognized members. So I'm exaggerating there probably, but all right. Hey, Captain Neckbeard says red state should mean something different. It used to. The red states used to be blue states, and the blue states used to be red states on maps. It wasn't until I think of the 80s when they switched that up, and then it's kind of funny. Oh, Dylan. The best and worst part of teaching. Best part of teaching is the relationships that you get with the students, and I mean, I love working with my students. I love just getting to the privilege of being around them and getting to teach them stuff. And a lot of them are curious, and a lot of them are smarter than me and smarter than most people older than them. The future is bright. So it re-energizes me every day. I'm just like, I have hope, The worst part about teaching sometimes is it's a stressful job. We are required to do a lot. We have probably 1,000 different skills. You need a skill set of 1,000. I say, you have a lot going on. I could use an assistant. Grading, I'm not the biggest fan of grading. I'd rather, at least, like the system that we have. I think we could improve grading, or improve the way that we assess learning. That's really all right then. Yeah, let's keep it going. Starting to get a little boring here probably for some of you. A lot of folks from Kansas or the Kansas City area. I like it. Oh, E pluribus unum, he has said that only the Cherokee and Choctaw have the ability to send delegates currently. Treaties with them says they can. Treaties? They've never been broken before between the U.S. government and Native American nations, have they? No. Yeah, but yeah, that's good. They're actually upholding the treaties. I could teach college if I wanted to. I have a master's in history, but I only teach high school. Only teach. It's an important job. Excuse me, that was gross. I burped. Mr. B, do you like John Adams? John Adams is okay. I mean, that Alien and Sedition Acts thing is just hard to get past. But you get past that. I've watched the mini series on HBO about John Adams. Of course, it gives you a more nuanced view and everything. And yeah, he wasn't so bad. In fact, he was ahead of his time, just like Thomas Jefferson, if not more than Thomas Jefferson on many things. Oh, there's Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey, Mr. B, what is your thoughts on Common Core? Common Core I mean, it's not perfect. The one thing that a lot of non-teachers don't know, a lot of parents don't know this who don't like Common Core, is Common Core is more skills-based. It's more practical skills that these kids are going to use in the real world for whatever they go into. They're more open-ended. So there's less emphasis on rote memorization, which I like. Teachers have more flexibility as far as which content students can get deeper into, and gives students more flexibility what they want to learn more about. So yeah, I mean, like, Common Core isn't perfect. It's still like trying to put a one-size-fits-all thing over a very large and diverse country, but it's better than what we had before. Before it was, I mean, No Child Left Behind was. I'm going to make a video about it one of these years. It was. It had lots of problems. Compromise with 1850. Shout out to K-Mill for that. Oh, I keep losing my spot, but let's see here. What do you think about? Oh, there he goes again. Oh, some kind words here. I like it. Do you think the USA is a good country? Yes, I do. It's great. I mean, it gets a bad rap, all right? It's not perfect, but it's great. What's your thoughts on the American educational system? That was right before that. Do you think it needs a major overhaul? Yeah, I think high school should start later. I think there should be blended learning at every school. At the very least, there should be more project-based learning, standards-based grading system. I think that you should go 4 days a week. You shouldn't go. You should have 3-day weekends. I mean, I think that would be, and you can go a little bit longer those 4 days if you need to. But I think that the students would learn just as much. There's a lot of things we could reform. I mean, why do we still work 40 hours a week anyway? All of us. Why are we working 40 hours a week? We're more productive than we've ever been. They talked about reducing the work week in the 1920s and 30s. They were like, hey, let's reduce it down to 30 hours a week, and never happened. So we need to constantly think about how can it get better. Don't be satisfied. Just because we've been doing it for 50, 60, 70 years doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. Was the U.S. right in joining World War I, or should we have stayed out? That's a good question, Will G. I think, I mean, it's a tough one, but I think it was a little bit nefarious how we got into World War I. And so there's a strong argument to make that we shouldn't have got into it. However, hindsight 2020, look at what happened afterwards. Now that we know that after we did get into it, it helped turn us into a superpower. The United States gained a lot of power from entering that war. So for selfish reasons, you could say the United States should have joined it. But, for moral reasons, that's a whole nother issue to talk about. Would I go for my doctorate? Atomic Penguin asks. No, I thought about it. I thought about being a professor for a while, full, tenure track and all that. I decided not to because it's just too competitive. There's just too many people that want to do the same thing. Plus, once YouTube started taking off, I wanted to focus more on that. So maybe someday that could change, but I already have enough student loan debt. Let's be honest here. What is my age? 37. Yes, 37. I probably look older than that lately. I haven't been stressed out, man. Moving is hard. All right. Do I like Ralph Nader? K Mill asks. Yeah, I voted for him one of those years, and I met him when I lived in Omaha. Mrs. Beat and I got to meet him, so that was cool. Can I tutor you? I need to take AP US History next year for my senior year. I'm scared. Oh, I have sophomores taking AP US, and if they can do it, you can do it. All right. I can help you anytime. I mean, hey, I have a website called apushvideos.com. No, .weebly.com. I didn't get the domain. apushvideos.weebly.com. I put together videos that match up with all the standards in APUSH. So start there. I have some of my videos, obviously, but I also have videos from various channels. All right. Oh, okay. Would you consider the U.S. to still be a free country? Rachel asks. I say mostly yes. I mean, especially when it comes to free speech. I think that First Amendment is still underrated. I mean, it's amazing how we don't have to worry about censorship a whole lot. I mean, people complaining right now about censorship, it's about Google and Facebook. Those are private companies. That's not the government doing that. And so, yeah, that's a whole nother issue that you should be concerned about. But, I mean, it could be much worse. Look at China. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at, shoot, half the countries in the world have really strict censorship. So I think, I'm worried about mass surveillance. I'm worried about privacy's going away. But I think privacy is one of those things that it might be inevitably going away. We might just have to accept it, and that's hard to swallow. but yeah, I think we're still a relatively free country. I think the other big problem we have in the United States is we lock too many of our citizens up. I mean, I have a song that I wrote about this where it is a little ironic that we call ourselves a land of the free when we have more prisoners than any other country in the world. So we need to figure that out with the drug war as well. Okay. I like these questions. Yes, got some good ones tonight. All right. Mr. Dunjoin. Oh. All right. Thanks, Soph. I appreciate that. Oh, great. I'm glad that history is no longer boring for you. Yeah, I mean, history is more exciting than fiction, in my opinion. I think the best stories are the true stories. And most people aren't that creative anyway. And so what I mean is, like, you look at the best fiction stories or that you see in superhero movies or whatever, like a lot of that stuff is based off real life. Let's be honest here. It's real stuff that happened. Heck yeah. Thoughts on the new Green Deal? I think those are some ambitious goals to have. I think they need to work out the kinks as far as what that would actually look like, practically speaking. But yeah, like aim high. I mean, you got to have visionaries in Congress. It's nice to have visionaries again, even if some of their ideas are out there and like might be a little impractical. Hey, go for it though, right? All right. Loading. Oh crap! Did we might have some stupid router issues going on? All right. What do you think of Evan McMullen? He was pretty fascinating. The thing is about the Republicans right now is that they might have a lot of at least 5 to 10% of the Republican Party right now is still probably the never Trumper category. However, they're just not heard from, or they don't speak out a whole lot, or if they do, a lot of people aren't really paying attention to them. So he was kind of one of those. I mean, the party has shifted to the Trump way, Trump way. I can't think of a better way to put it. All right. Thoughts on the Oklahoman Panhandle? It's kind of not much there. It's where the Dust Bowl really hit badly. I know that. Luftwaffe. Okay, there you go. Mr. Beat, what is your favorite era of history? My favorite era of history to learn about, to teach as well, is the 1960s. mostly because of the cultural changes during that decade, but also the Cold War stuff that was going on. So, Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, then the counterculture, the rise of that, just so many changes going on, and it was a tumultuous time. All right. Oh, hey, Mr. Dunn, what's going on? Yeah, well, you do it on Twitter, right? He says, I want a channel where people lob questions at me and I just get to expound at my whim and discretion. I always get questions about presidents, though. Do you like Zachary Taylor? I think he was a fine general. I think as a president, he was kind of one of those guys that just trusted his advisors. Like he built a decent team around him. What do you think about reparations? This question comes from Kwana. I imagine probably likely due to what's her name, the presidential candidate who's been making it an issue. Oh, what's her name? Oh gosh, Marianne Williamson. Yeah, I think reparations. I don't know enough about like the implications of it. I think that we need to. There's other things we can do probably first to help certain populations in this country before we jump to that. But I do understand, I understand why people call for reparations still. Yeah, Marianne Williamson. All right. I do have a video about the Dust Bowl, Hermes. It is a parody song. I did it a couple years ago, a year and a half ago with some students. It's also with Mr. Betts as a collaboration. He joined. It's to foster the people's pumped up kicks. So, all right. Were you ever involved with academic decathlon students? The topic for last year was no. I haven't done that. I could look into it though. You caught my attention. What do you think about teachers expressing or pushing their political views on students? They shouldn't do that. I mean, that's a captive audience you're doing that to. I think that's I pride myself in my students not knowing where I stand exactly politically, because I'm always, if once they think they got me figured out, then I just throw a curveball at them, and then like, whoa, okay. Always playing devil's advocate for sure. Never completely satisfied. I'm always overthinking things too, so that maybe that helps with that. All right. Oh, Stephen has some kind words too for Mrs. Beat. Sorry if I'm missing questions here. I'm just scrolling down here. We'll probably go another 15 minutes. All right. Does the president have more power now than when they did pre-World War II? Yes, absolutely. I mean, just look at the power of sending troops to war. You don't have to get authorization from Congress, and for at least, was it 60 days, 90 days? But also look at the war on terrorism. I mean, that was never declared a declared war on any country or anything, and it's just kind of like an ongoing political action all around the world. So yeah, the president, I mean, people forget that the president's main job is commander in chief, head of the military. And so it is kind of weird that we haven't had a president for wow, since, I mean, we've had George W. Bush was in the Air National Guard, I think. But we haven't had presidents for a while that actually served in the military. So the ones who actually had military experience, like Pete Buttigieg and Tulsi Gabbard, they gained my respect for that, because I mean, it makes sense that they would go for the president job. I mean, that's their commander in chief is their main job, like I said. All right, so when is your birthday? It's in November. Okay, Mill, thanks for the kind words about Supreme Court briefs. Yeah. If you could change one thing about the way Congress functions, what would you change? I would probably change the influence of lobbyists on them. I think a lot of lobbyists and special interests just straight up buy politicians. That's the most. I think that's the root of the problem a lot of times. Do states have a right to secede? Not according to the Supreme Court. I did a case. I did a video about that case, Texas v. White, and so I kind of look towards that case as precedent for the, whether or not states have a right to secede. So no, they don't. So I mean, we could get philosophical. I'm just talking about the legal aspect of it. Oh, I missed Tyler. Tyler wanted me to read this. What is old Uncle Joe still doing in the race? Joe Biden is fascinating. I don't know one person. I've never met a person that is like a passionate Joe Biden fan, and yet he's so far ahead in the polls. And so it's got me questioning these polls and questioning, like, whether establishment media types are really like connected to ordinary people. Because when I even drive around town, I drive around town and I occasionally I'll see Andrew Yang's sign in the yard already. I think I saw one girl wearing a Kamala Harris shirt, but never ever will I ever see a Joe Biden sticker or shirt or sign, like, unless he wins the nomination, we get to the general yada yada. But he just doesn't. You don't see the passionate supporters for him. So it's a fascinating thing. It reminds me of Hillary Clinton in 2016, and we all know how that ended up. So maybe the Democratic Party can learn their lesson this time. Do you think that the Amazon rainforest fire will become the biggest ecological disaster that they are predicting? It's hard to tell. I've been following it, Chris. It's very depressing, honestly. Plant some trees, guys. That's the least you can do. Plant trees. We all should be planting trees. If we can't go there and help fight the fire, Bolsonaro apparently. Did I say his name wrong? Bolsonaro. Did I say it wrong? Bolsonaro. I don't know. He sent the military in to fight the fires, so I guess that's something. But it could be bad. I mean, we should all be paying attention to it for sure. But it's the same things happen in other parts of the world too. It's happening in Indonesia. They're burning down rainforests. So, do you like systems like the U.S. with a president, or parliamentary systems like Canada? I like parliamentary system a little bit better. I think we could kind of move that direction. It's a popularity contest what we have with the president, And I say that being like a fan of presidential history my entire life. I mean, I've always loved it, but let's be honest here. It's like, it feels like a reality TV show all the time. It is like a popularity contest. All right. Who will win the Super Bowl? The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. Okay. All right. Tana mentioned that Ethiopia planted something like 250 to 300 million trees over the course of a weekend recently. Yeah, different countries have done similar things. I think that's one of the best things we can do to kind of fight ecological disasters. Is we can, it's a simple thing, planting a tree. Oh my gosh, what a great screen name! Someone Still Loves You, George W. Bush. Just like the band Someone Still Loves You, Boris Yeltsin. I love that. Thoughts on Hong Kong? That's another thing I've been trying to follow. The protests in Hong Kong, it seems like, when you think they're going to kind of die down, they pick right back up. And China is kind of it's kind of subtle intimidation. They're not really, I think, being too aggressive because they know the whole world is watching. It's not like it was in the 80s, It's like the internet the social media part of it's a game changer. I mean, as much as China censors the internet, there's ways around it, and so they don't have quite the grapple on it. And so I think it will end up turning into something bigger. I'm optimistic about what's going on in Hong Kong. I think it's just the beginning of something. Thoughts on Minecraft? I've never played, but I had my daughter play, and I was there with her, and I can see why you young folks are addicted to it. Oh, Mickey Mouse, cut it out now. That's all right. Sunflower Socialist, good to see you. Any tips for writing my senior history capstone paper? Pick something you're passionate about. Will Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico ever gain statehood? D.C., no. Puerto Rico, I think we'll probably see it in our lifetime. I bet you within 50 years it happens. Either that or they're going to be their own country. All right. Do you think President Obama should have kept his word about military action against Assad when he crossed the red line, or do you think that he made the right call about not doing that? Well, I mean, he ended up sending troops anyway, right? People don't realize that. So, he did keep his word. Actually, he broke his promise to the American people when he said he wasn't going to send troops there. He did. We went to Syria. We still have troops in Syria. That's what blows my mind. Like, people, they don't realize, like, we have troops all over the world and we're actively pursuing suspects, and it's just ongoing. You just don't see it in the news. All right. Have I read The Prince by Machiavelli? Of course I have. It's required reading in Western Civ class, and as an undergraduate, I still have my copy. I revisited it a few years ago when I started teaching, and it's one of the few books that I actually enjoyed reading. I loan it out to students sometimes. They seem to like it too. Thoughts on Trump visiting North Korea? I thought it was a good idea to open up a dialogue with Kim Jong-un, for sure. You got to sit down with dictators and, for the sake of world peace, Okay. Thoughts on Venezuela? I haven't been following it lately. It's got a lot of problems. They've made a lot of poor economic decisions there. What classes do I teach? I teach push, as I mentioned earlier. I also teach economics, and I teach American government. Although I've taught all kinds of other things in the past. That's currently. Do I collect flags? Mostly just American flags. Although I have a rebel flag that I got recently that Mrs. B wasn't too happy about. But the reason why I got it was for educational purposes. I'm making a video about it in the future, about the rebel flag. And so, El Casper, hey, my Patreon supporter El Casper, thank you for the super chat donation. He says, thoughts on Henry George and Georgism. Ooh, I don't know enough about Henry George and Georgism, but I learned the little I do know about it was on a podcast I listened to. We don't get into that in the Introduction to Economics. I think what I liked about it when I was listening to it is just how practical everything sounded. I mean, it seemed like it was the fact that it's tied to psychology, how we all behave. I like that part of it. I need to learn. I need to read some books about it. I need to actually read. Let's see. What did Henry George? What books did he? Progress and Poverty, Protection of Free Trade. Looks like they're all in the public domain, so I should check them out. Yeah, he's Protection of Free Trade. I think I know where he stands on that. But yeah, I'm a big free trade guy. All right, I like cheap stuff because wages are not going up very much. Inflation goes up, so we've got to do what we can to keep the cost of things low. And so I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about these tariffs, and what the effect that they're going to have. In Kansas here, it's we've got soybean farmers that are struggling. It's real, and you can only bribe them for so long. It's gonna. And a lot of these guys voted for President Trump, so we'll see how that ends up. So related to that, Atomic Penguin says, thoughts on farm subsidies? Well, farm subsidies, I mean, they're Band-Aids, right? But what else are we going to do? I mean, I think I don't like any kind of subsidies at all, but it's one of those things where we've created problems, and now what are we going to do? These farmers are struggling, and economics is a little bit more complicated with what they have to deal with. And because it's a sector of the economy that's so freaking important, we all need food. I think that's why it's justified. But I mean, philosophically, subsidies are I'm against them, but I understand that there's got to be certain exceptions on subsidies. If I ran for governor of Kansas on the platform in farm subsidies, I would never get elected for sure. So politicians aren't going to call for them to end anytime soon. All righty, yeah, we'll wrap this up here soon. We have 5 more minutes here. Thoughts on the Epstein death? Mrs. Beat came and she told me that he died by suicide, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "I wonder who murdered him." And I think that just kind of shows you how much distrust all of us tend to have of powerful people. I mean, we all assume the worst, whether it's true or not. So the thing about conspiracy theories, I don't have conspiracy theories on this. Will we ever know the complete truth? Likely no. But it is good to question, the official narrative. I think that's healthy. You're not putting your tinfoil hat on completely if you just question it. But to automatically have it all figured out, no, we don't. There's no evidence of that anyway that I've seen. All right, what do you think about term limits? I go back and forth. No more Confederate flag. No, it's just for educational purposes. I don't want to give it away, the video idea, and it's actually, I think, going to be really, people will learn a lot from it. I'm going to bring people together too. But yeah, term limits, I think I used to think they were a really good idea. Now I'm not so sure. I even have a whole book about it that I read in grad school, the case against term limits. And the biggest problem, if you have term limits in Congress, you're going to have high turnover, and a lot, because of the higher turnover, you're going to have lobbyists have even more power. That really freaks me out. And that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about with if you had term limits. All right, some of these questions I'm going to skip over because they're just like, eh. Another Grover Cleveland question. I love Grover Cleveland. He's my second favorite president. If you don't know anything about Grover Cleveland, I think the most important thing I like about him is his character, about his integrity. Minimum wage. Do you think the $7.25 federal minimum wage is good, or should it be increased or decreased? Philosophically, I think the minimum wage is bad. Practically, pragmatically speaking, I mean, it's another Band-Aid situation like the subsidies. You just what are you going to do otherwise? What are you going to do? So, I mean, I get the arguments against the minimum wage completely. So, but I think there's a certain point where, and then $7.25, are you kidding me? I mean, $15 an hour is hard to survive off of, but people are somehow doing it. And so, yeah, I mean, imagine living off of $7.25 an hour and trying to do what you want instead of just try to survive off ramen noodles every day. I used to get minimum wage. So, I mean, it's the way the arguments against the minimum wage, of course, are, it's going to hurt small business owners. It's going to make unemployment go up. But yeah, so we have debates about that actually in my economics class. All right. Yeah. Are you a history teacher, or would you want to be, Mr. Beat? Someone just asked me that. They haven't been watching the whole time, apparently. I've been a history teacher for 11 years. Do you think people who work in restaurants should get paid under minimum wage? No, I think we should get rid of our tipping system and just pay them a high wage, like the rest of the world does. The rest of the world doesn't do this whole tipping game that we do in the United States. It's really weird. Thoughts on Woodrow Wilson? Generally not a fan. He made my worst presidents video. Ludlow strike, 19th Amendment. Oh boy, I mean, I could go on and on about that, but we are running out of time. So I'll do one last question here that's nice and quick here. What do you think is undertaught in U.S. history classes? Anything overtaught? Oh, what's overtaught is political history. We learn too much about political history, which I like, but people don't need to know all that. And what's undertaught is probably, I think, economics, but also geography. The two big things that I'm into as well. I think geography, because there's a lot of ignorance of other cultures, and I mean, most of my students where I teach in a small town in Kansas. Most of them have never been out of the country, or if they have, they went to Mexico on a cruise, you know, and so they have this warped view of the world, you know, and they're only going to get it in geography classes. Otherwise, I mean, the one thing that kind of helps that these days with the internet is a lot of them play video games with people from other countries in the world. Like, I have a student who's regularly he's playing he's online playing games with people from Brazil or the Philippines or where else, you know, Germany, and so I think that's good. But I think if you get a chance to study abroad in college, freaking do it. All right, you'll learn so much. And then economics, it affects us all. You can predict every election by looking at economic data. The right economic data, you can always predict who's going to win the election at the federal level, the national level. So, all right, Rockhurst High School, woo woo, in KC. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm sorry this wasn't fancier, and I'm gonna have to get OBS going or some other kind of encoding software, so these will be more professional. But this is my new studio. Thanks for joining me tonight, and you have a wonderful evening. Until next time.